Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today, we are speaking with Edgar Rodriguez. Edgar is the founder, CEO, master, the network. So you know what we're going to be talking about here. He is an experienced entrepreneur, business owner, speaker, business and executive coach, and most importantly, a veteran. Edgar, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Enrique, thank you for having me and having this opportunity, for us to reconnect and continue to talk about networking, right? A very important piece about business and how it can expedite people's growth.
Absolutely. Now, folks, I already mentioned but we will be talking about the power of networking for effective leadership. But before we get into that, Edgar, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am now living in Las Vegas, been a resident here for a little over 17 years. Originally came here to vacation for 2 weeks and never left. So, Vegas is probably one of the best decisions I ever made. Leaving the Marine Corps, I enlisted in the Marine Corps right after 9/11, did a 4-year stint, got extended an extra year because we were in theater. Also another good decision to get out of California that way. Would not change it and would not have it any other way, because I'm a firm believer of everything that we've done has a purpose and a reason, right? And the Marine Corps made me the man that I am today. So I'm extremely grateful. Had really close calls in Iraq, but here we are today and continuing that journey of life and business, right? I do have my 2 daughters and that are my world. And the reason why I do what I do is not just for them, but the impact in continuing to serve, from serving our country to now serving the community.
And we thank you for that service. I know as a service member how important that is, not only to our nation, but to our families. And I know they're proud of you. Semper Fi to you and all of my brothers, since I am a Gator Navy kind of sailor on the USS Iwo Jima. I pre-commissioned that. So I love my Marine Corps brothers and sisters. And folks, we talked about one topic that will undoubtedly connect you forever, and that is networking. So, Edgar, before we were chatting about how important this is, but now we're going to get into the question of what is networking to you?
Networking to me is not just about making the connection, right? Not just connecting with other people, whether it's personal or professional, but it's how you build that relationship, right? And what that relationship, what it could lead to. When you really take the time to get to know people, you never know who they're connected to. But you really have to take that interest if, number one, I can try to sell this person in what I do, and then you just locked that entire network of who they know, right? But if you take the time and say, hey, look, let me understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. How can I help you? How can I add value to you? Then that unlocks, their network in knowing the difference, right? In prospecting versus networking. So to me, networking is taking the time to getting to know people, seeing how you can add value to them, right? And before you even ask what's in it for me, it's, hey, how can I help you? How can I add value to you? So to me, that's what networking is.
Great definition. And as you're giving that definition, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it is. Because I just had a conversation with an individual, wonderful person, bright, shining person.
Mm-hmm.
And their key had NFL on it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, I never would have known. Right. But that interest in that particular person, as you just mentioned, everybody has keys, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those keys will blow your mind away as to how that can help you on down the road. And as a podcaster, love to have some NFL players on the show. Now, there are different ways that we can network. So what are those different ways?
Well, you've got, virtual, in person. There's also through word of mouth, right? And becoming, you know, the goal is and what I tell people is I keep my circle extremely small. However, they have a circle that they keep small, right? And that expands. I know here in Vegas, at least, I tell people we're almost as big as this city is, right? Think we're approaching the 3 million mark in population, but the business community is extremely small. So we're literally 2 degrees from separation. Um, so, different ways to network is just knowing who you're trying to target, right? As far as who am I trying to build a relationship with? Who are the people that I see making a difference in the community and making an impact and wanting to do change for the good and getting close to those people, right? It's the books we read, the people who we associate with. If you take the time to nourish that, in the next 5 years, your life can transform.
That is absolutely right. Now, I learned a very great lesson from a great and dear friend of mine, and we're both a part of a group called the Outliers Project.
Mm.
And Scott McGregor is his name. I love him, so I'll drop his name on there. But he taught a very good lesson in networking, and that was that it has no right or wrong way of it. Right?
Right.
The wrong now there is a wrong way of networking, right? You will be my friend. You don't want to do that. But he asked a simple question on LinkedIn. When was the last time you gave a recommendation without being asked? And that's very powerful. A lot
Mhm.
of people think that networking is going to this group and everybody's having, little what we call in Hawaii poo-poos and appetizers and things like that. But there are so many other different ways to connect.
Mhm.
That's a very simple way. Or how
Right.
about when was the last time you sent a voice recording as a message on LinkedIn
Mm.
or a personal recorded video?
Right.
Hey, I just wanted to say hi today, but I wanted to see my face.
Yep.
There are so
Yep.
many different ways, folks.
Yeah, I call those critical non-essentials, right? In one of the techniques that we use are birthdays, anniversaries, and instead of just sending them a generic text message like everybody does, is send a video message personalized to that person. And especially if there's someone who you're really trying to get closer to, that will have a massive ripple effect because they will know you took the time to personalize something for them. Voice memo is a great way too, but I challenge people to say, hey, take the video, do a video and see how massive of a difference that is, or even a handwritten card, right? On anniversaries or just thinking about you. Something triggered that reminded me of you. Just wanted to say, hope you're having a great, a great Q1, a great week.
And those are very powerful. We're surrounded and inundated by video left and right. And if
Mhm.
you're not using video or you're not using recorded messages, you're shortchanging yourself and you're definitely not making an impact. I'll tell you that. So, when we talk about leadership, right, there's a lot of folks that get into leadership and they think they've arrived, right? So they don't have to do no more. What a thought that will initially just send you going downhill. But what role does networking have in the success of leaders? Because I know there is.
So, I mean, you think about it, right? As a leader, and if you really define the definition of a leader, right, is it's not a position, right? That's a choice, right? Um, Us that serve the military, we weren't forced to serve the military. We answered the call that we wanted to serve our country, right? So as a leader, I feel you're still serving in a completely different manner. It's now from the national right of us protecting our country to now to our own community. So as a leader, it's that call to action. And with networking, it's okay, for whether it's for my centers of influence, right? How can I help them become more successful through the connections that I have or the relationships that I'm building? So it's always staying top of mind and asking questions like, hey, what challenges, obstacles, or who's the ideal person that can make a massive impact in your business, right? You have to be direct. at least with your centers of influence, to understand if I can help you through my network and leverage my network, how can I do that? Right? If we were mind readers, we'd all be millionaires, but we're not. And a closed mouth never got fed. So it's good to have those conversations because it's accountability, right? If you say this is the person that I need to be introduced to, great. Let me see what I can do to make it happen. So to me as a leader, it's building those connections, becoming the conduit for others.
And that's amazing that you would bring that up. Now, some leaders feel that once they know you, that's it. You know, you don't have to do it no more. But any relationship worth keeping has to be fostered, right? Has to be fed. And a lot of times, I'm going to ask leaders right now, if you're listening, when was the last time you sent a message to one of your people, independent of your work, independent of your workspace, right? Not from your work email or anything like that. You have their number. When was the last time you sent them a message to foster a healthy relationship and network? Because guess what? Just because they work for you doesn't mean they don't know nobody.
Right. Right. And one thing, like, and to echo what you're saying, Enrique, I did this recently is I just sent out a message to a close veteran here in the local community. I said, hey man, I know I haven't seen you in a while. Just wanted to check in. How are you doing? And his reply back was, you know, actually I'm not in a good place right now. So I said, you want to grab lunch? Let's talk. How can I help? Right. And it's not just about business. We live in a world where we're faced with so many challenge, obstacles, peaks, valleys, that just doing a mental health check on people who are close to us, or even if they don't think they're close, you know that you have respect for them. Even by checking in by something little like that, us as veterans or even as business leaders, there's a lot of pressure we face. So doing a quick check, like, hey, how are you? Not how's business, but how are you? That shows them that, man, he actually really cares.
And as a leader, you mentioning that, my heart is like melting over here, right? Because you know, and tears almost welled up because that is the epitome of leadership, where you can take out of your time and invest in somebody else and truly ask, how's it going? With expectation that you're going to answer and hear and answer and hear, right? Not just a pass you by on the P-way, as we would say
Right.
on the ship, and not wait for an answer and keep going. But you mentioned something earlier that is very critical in terms of leaders networking,
Mm.
because at this point you are at probably the top of where you're going to be, unless you have some other rungs that you aspire to. But
Right.
at the position of leadership, you're in this spot. Hopefully, you chose to be there and not were told to be there, because nobody wins then. If you're in a position of leadership by choice and you have made that, your networking now is dual. It is for you, but there is a different group that will benefit from that, and that is your team. So, how can leaders network for the benefit of their team members?
Well, first, it's actually taking the time to get to know your team, right? In the cycle of business, and it's something we teach here, is that business owners tend to try to focus on business, they try to focus on the team, and they try to focus on customers, which then they feel extremely stretched thin because they feel like I'm trying to do everything. But if you really focus on the business owner taking care of the team and understanding what it is your team needs for you to go network effectively to get them what they need, the team is going to take care of the client, right? The clients will take care of the business, which the business takes care of you. That's the cycle you want to be in, where you're invested in your team. So as a leader in with networking, what is it? What obstacles are we facing? Having open communication and allowing them to take some risk, because that's what creates innovation, right? Reward them for that risk taking. And if you take the time to understand what it is your leaders want, right? The leaders that you're building, you should be empowering them to become the next generation, right? I like to surround myself with people who are way smarter than me. However, I know enough about them that makes me dangerous in a good way, right? That's where the Marine Corps made me lethal, is understanding other people's strengths. Now, when I go talk to somebody, they're like, holy crap, he knows a ton. In reality, I took the time to understand other people's strengths and I know what my weaknesses are. So I'm going to surround myself with them. Now I can leverage that to say, hey, can you come and talk about this because you are the subject matter expert, right? But it's being that resource, that conduit for what it is, whatever it's your team or your network, right? It works both ways.
Yeah, the key there, folks, if you're in leadership, is knowing your team. What a beauty would it be if, because hey, not all leaders are able to answer the mail for their folks, and you have limitations, right? So if a leader needs to know how to about crocheting, I'm not the one, right? But guess what? I might know, right? I might know somebody that does that, and a simple introduction can actually suffice for them in a relationship base where they can actually get what they wanted. And it was just a simple introduction. But
Right.
I would have never known if I didn't know that person. So if you're a leader and you don't know your people, you are doing a disservice to yourself and to them, because you know somebody that can help them while they're struggling at your work site
Mhm.
because you can't answer the mail. So start knowing your people, start knowing your surroundings and how those two can meet for the betterment and enrichment of everyone that is in and around your circle. I love that. Now, leaders, some want to learn something, they already have it all. And we already know which one's going to be successful or not. But what are three must do's in your mind uh, concerning networking that leaders must take into account?
Be genuine, be authentic, and actively listen. For me, those are top three must do's, right? It's when you do network, you get asked the question, hey, what do you do? Right. And if you're in a big group, you get asked that question about 50 times. So I always ask people when they ask me that question, hey, just out of curiosity, do you enjoy answering that question? And some people will say, no, I'm getting tired of it. So what's a better way to ask that question? Right? I like starting with, hey, what are you most excited about in 2023? Same question, just a better way to ask it. Or, hey, how was 2022? And what are you looking to change in 2023? Or how are we going to improve in 2023? Right? Hey, what interesting projects are you currently working on? How can I add value to you? That is memorable. That makes you stand out. Versus, hey, what do you do? So when they ask me that question, I always answer it with, well, it depends on what hat I'm wearing, right? Because I do a lot in the community, whether it's being an ambassador for Bunker Labs, whether it's building Master the Network, whether it's, building the team over at Action Coach, and it just really depends. So the easiest way for me to always answer that is, look, I went from serving my country as a Marine to now serving my community through a variety of different ways, right? So it's, for me, the must do is always listen, figure out what it is they need. Don't try to get it, try to give before you can get it. And understand how you can follow through. Don't just say you're going to do something and never follow through. I think that's the biggest challenge that most of us face, is that we say, yeah, I can do that. Or, hey, I know the right person for you, but can you deliver? Can you follow through is the key, and nurturing the follow through, right? I mean, look, leadership is not I said it earlier, it's not a position, it's a skill set. And some of us are born naturally with it. but it's something that has to be taught. You have to nurture leadership. Even when you hire people and you're building your team, you as the leader have to nurture them on how to become better leaders, right? In the networking aspect, networking is not a skill set either. It is a skill set. It's something that you don't learn. You're just not born with it, right? Some of us have that natural, hey, I'm a people person, right? Understanding your profile, right? Some people are very high energy. Some people are very reserved, laid back. So you have to learn how to read all this stuff. And all of this, again, it takes time. The question I dropped at one of my networking groups was, look, when Master the Network came to fruition, I kept beating my head against the wall with, I want to do this better. Like I need to learn from somebody. However, I couldn't find anybody. And that's when I had my come to Jesus moment with, I think this is what I need to do. Right. So if I ask a room full of people like, hey, show of hands, how many of you been networking for 15 years or 5 to 10 years? You're going to have some people raise their hands. 15 plus. You're going to have one or two people keep their hands up. And the question that I ask is, hey, so you've been networking for 15 plus years. Let me ask you a question. Through trial and tribulation, everything you've learned over these 15 years, if you knew everything you knew today, when you first started your business 15 years ago, where would your business be today? Right. And that is what the impact of how do we expedite the learning curve? Right. Not just through networking and fostering those relationships, but that's what motivated me to say, you know what? I need to do this. I need to be that person because I can do it. And I want to teach others. I want to show other people. And the ones that have gone through the program, I mean, one of them started as a, just got her foot in the door, and now she's leading a whole state of in what she's doing with her career. So that expedited learning curve was massive for her.
And that's a wonderful story. And I tell you, networking, if not one of the keys, probably one of the more important keys to ensuring that your leadership, your longevity in business, the way you are accepted in communities, the way you can impact communities and lives, networking is at the center of all that. And if you don't take the time, as you just mentioned, to say, hey, how can I improve this thing? How can I make this better? Because I know that it will undoubtedly impact in one way or another somebody, then you are missing the point of networking because it's always evolving, right? There were not videos back in the day. People networked, right? It was all
Mm-hmm.
it was in groups. It was with business cards. I don't even see a business card no more. It's a, hey, are you on LinkedIn? Bling. Here's
Yep.
my QR code. Scan
Right.
that. At which, oh, by the way, I will tell LinkedIn right now, bring back the who's in the room. That was a that was a game changer for
Mm-hmm.
networking,
Oh yeah.
right? And they removed it somehow. So I'm gonna plug that in there. Edgar, it's been such a pleasure speaking to you, and I know that you do this on a professional basis. You help people learn how to do these things because it is a skill set. You can be charismatic by nature, but you need to hone some skills around this. How can somebody get a hold of you to help them or them become part of this initiative you have?
Yeah. So my loudest voice is going to be LinkedIn. So if you look me up on LinkedIn, I don't think there's a lot of Edgar Rodriguez is on there, but you'll find me on there. You could find me on Instagram at Master of the Network. Same thing with Twitter, Facebook, same thing. But for me, it's LinkedIn's going to be the easiest, quickest. That's where I'm extremely active. I've dropped a lot of articles about the power of networking, a lot about leadership, managing effective time, stop delegating, right? Or can learn to delegate. So I'm gonna say that's probably the best way, easiest way to get a hold of me.
All right, folks. Now we're going to have that as part of the video and show notes so that you can get a hold of Edgar. He is a master networker and he's going to help you do the same. Folks, it's been a pleasure to talk about networking. I hope if you're a leader, you've been listening, that you got some tips, guidance, advice that you needed to make yourself effective in networking. Want to remind everybody that today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, and Harchester, London. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.